So welcome. I am Evelyn Ellis, the Vice President of Institutional Diversity and Equity here at Dartmouth College. This is the 15th Annual Social Justice Awards, and they were established back in 2002 by the Martin Luther King Jr. Celebration Committee, and it is a group of diverse people from a variety of departments at Dartmouth. These awards were established to recognize individual alumni, faculty, staff, student groups for their commitment to the causes of social justice, civil rights, peace, education, public health, or environmental justice. This year's Social Justice Awards ceremony is co-sponsored by Martin Luther King Jr. Celebration Committee, the Office of Institutional Diversity and Equity, the William Jewett Tucker Center, and the Dartmouth Center for Service. This evening will begin, as it always does, with music by the Rockapellas.
Why are my sisters singing working daughter, a father's pride and joy, somebody's mother, brother, best friend, sister, lover, maybe anyone's student, running, hiding, taking cover. The women gather, crying tears that fill a million oceans. It doesn't matter where you're living. The women gather, crying tears that fill a million oceans. People say, not in this neighborhood. It doesn't happen here. Our kids have everything. What do we have to fear? But what about the ones who say it happens every day? Drugs and violence take our children. How much more death can come our way? The women gather, crying tears that fill a million oceans. It doesn't matter where you're living. The women gather, crying tears that fill a million oceans. Don't you know? Some bullets find their targets, guns can take you right on. Some in the hands of babies or officials and their claim the brother had a gun, he fit the profile in my book. Running, hiding, taking cover, didn't take the time to look. Somebody's mother, brother, best friend, sister, lover. Women gather, crying tears that fill a million oceans. It doesn't matter where you're living. The women gather, crying tears that fill a million oceans. The women gather, crying tears that fill a million oceans. It doesn't matter where you're living. The women gather, crying tears that fill a million oceans. It doesn't matter, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter where you're living. The women gather.
Oh, thank you very much. Steve, I'm glad you're following them. I have the honor of introducing a wonderful faculty leader here at Dartmouth. Steve Swain teaches courses in art and music from 1700 to the present day, opera, American musical theater, Russian music, and American music. He has written 2 books, How Sondheim Found His Sound, and Orpheus in Manhattan, William Schumann and the Shaping of America's Musical Life. It was the winner of the 2012 AFCAP Nicholas Sonemsky Award for Outstanding Musical Biography. He is presently at work on 2 more. One on the life and the music of musical theater composer William Fenn, and another on the intersections of music, neuroscience, and ethics. In addition to his work at Dartmouth, he has taught at the San Francisco Conservatory of Music and at the University of California, Berkeley. And he is, and I can assure you this, an accomplished concert pianist. Please help me welcome Steve Swain.
We who believe in freedom cannot rest. Let me join with Evelyn Ellis and the Rockapellas in welcoming you to this year's ceremony to celebrate the work done by the recipients of this year's Social Justice Awards. You can find descriptions of all of these awards on that little leaflet on the back. You'll hear their biographies in a bit. You can also go to the website to read about them even more. Any serious reading of the history of this nation or of any nation will teach us that working towards social justice is, at its best, a challenging and often lonely enterprise. At its worst, such work ends in death. We know this only too well. At its worst and at its best, such work changes the world for the better. Many of you are familiar with the work of NPR host and special correspondent Michelle Norris. She started the Race Card Project, where people are invited to offer up no more than 6 words to, and I quote, distill your thoughts, experiences, or observations about race, end quote. At our church on Sunday, the preacher handed out cards and asked us to write down our 6 words. Here are mine. It's gotten better. It'll get better. That's bad grammar, but it's true. Over the past few years, I've had occasion to talk with Dartmouth students about issues of social justice. Consider these issues from the past few years. Anonymous campus comments that malign and demean women. Concerns of how those entrusted to serve and protect us behave when no one seems to be looking. Homophobic statements and actions too many of us must still endure. Leaders today threatening to draw ever brighter lines between peoples. There is no shortage of social justice work that remains to be done here in Hanover and out there in the wider world. In the light of these and other injustices we see, some of the students I've talked to have concluded things are no better. If anything, things are getting worse. While I share their concerns, I do not share their assessment of the past, or of the present, or of the future. I remind them that my life and the lives of many others whom they know, in fact, the lives of almost all of us in this room, our lives testify that it's gotten better when it comes to social justice. And if we want things to continue to get better, it means we have to get in there and work for justice. Justice won't come from naming problems and then running away from them. Justice won't come from refusing to leap over the hurdles we find in our way. For things to get better, we must be committed to make change happen. We who believe in freedom gotta get in there. We come today to say thank you to women and men who decided that they would get in there, would be a part of making change happen, of making things get better. Our ceremony is a stop on our journey toward justice. Let no one mistake our minutes together today as the goal of our work. Let no one turn our ceremony into an occasion to offload our individual responsibilities when it comes to pursuing social justice. We gather instead to refuel, to take encouragement from one another, and especially from our honorees as we continue to work collectively and individually in the never-ending work of making this world a better place for all of us who live in it. Our time today reminds us that, however far we have yet to go, we've come quite a ways already. It's gotten better thanks to the honorees who are here with us today. Let's use our time this afternoon to reaffirm our commitment to making sure it continues to get better. Thank you.
Take your time. No, take your time. We're so happy to have you. Thank you, Steve. And thank all of you again for coming out to spend this time with us. Not only have you joined a long Dartmouth tradition of honoring people who have distinguished themselves in the work of social justice, but you have joined my traditional Ellis family story time. We do it every year. I'm amazed that I never have to search my mind to find a new story to share with you. This year, I'm sharing a story about fear in African American parenthood. Now, my goal isn't to make you become fearful parents, but to help you understand the fear that parents of African American children live with every day. In August, every August, my family makes its way to the coast of Maine. Maine is a heavenly place, and I go there seeking beauty, quiet, and renewal. The power of the ocean has a way of healing whatever ills I bring to its shores. Each year, my daughter, Julia, and I take a day to visit the coastal botanical gardens of Maine. We have a system, well, as much of a system as you can have with a teenager. We start at the office to get tickets. We make sure we have liquid. We check out the bookstore, and then we head to our chosen areas. I head out to see the new plants on site, and Julia heads straight to the Fairy Houses garden to build her latest version of the greatest fairy house in the world. We determine what's going to be our check-in time in our place, which normally involves getting a quick snack before we head off in different directions. This August visit was to be no different. After I visited the meditation garden, my normal starting point, I go to the children's garden, I go to a few more. Then I went to the Fairy Houses garden to collect Julia. She was not there. I assumed she had created a masterpiece and walked back to the store to find me. So I walked back to the store, and she was not there. Okay? I assume she went back to the meditation garden looking for me. So I went back there. She was not there. By the time I had finished my visiting of other places and searched all the places that she would have gone, 3 hours had passed. She was not answering her cell phone, but is dead most of the time, so I assumed it was dead. With no warning, my mind recalled many of the names of African American children and adults who had died the past year at the hands of people who should have been protecting them. Panic set in, and that incredibly beautiful place turned into Dante's hell. I wondered if she had gotten ill and no one bothered to help her. I wondered if she had suddenly frightened some person who was not accustomed to coming across a 6 feet tall African American child in the forests of Maine and called the cops, who assumed she should not be there. Every crazy thought you can think of flooded my mind, and my heart pounded as my lungs started to shut down. Not once did I stop circling all the places I thought she would go looking for me. I had noticed throughout the visit that we were the only diversity the gardens had welcomed that day, and that observation just fed my fear. Finally, I made my way to the front desk. I explained that my teenager was not in the Ferry House's garden and none of the places I expected her to be, and 3 hours was really a long time for her not to make contact with me. The woman at the desk must have heard and seen my extreme fear, so she immediately picked up the telephone, the keys to the golf cart, notified others that we were looking for a 6 feet girl somewhere in the gardens. So she said, let's go back to the Ferry Gardens again. What saved me from cardiac arrest as we drove down that hill was one comforting thought. There may be bad people in the world, and there may be people who do not feel a need to care for my child and the children of African Americans all over this world. But there are more good people than bad, and every single year since I've been here at Dartmouth, I get to meet and introduce some of those who spend their lives making the world safer and better for my child. I knew some of those people had to be in the coastal botanical gardens of Maine. As we took our final turn to the Ferry Houses, I noticed that it was not in the same area we had been visiting the past 2 years. The Ferry Gardens had flooded 3 years ago, and the garden that I knew and kept walking to had only been a temporary one. Julia had spent 3 hours in the new restored gardens, creating a fairy house that looked, as she said, Mom, out toward the ocean. While she was concerned that I didn't bring her food, she had spent that time happy, safe, and being creative. Now, I share this with you so that you understand that the parents of African American children, even in the most beautiful places, world can turn into Dante's hell. Because we have that knowledge of how quickly things can go terribly bad for our children. We have witnessed too many lost lives that our society has not even dignified with a genuine apology, and definitely not concerned enough to address the problems head on. Our fears are real, and if mine did turn out to have no justification for raising that ugly reality of possible loss, I ask that all of you are honorees. Continue to do your work and bring others into the national conversation of social justice in this country. Remind your family, your neighbors, your friends, how far we still have to go before mothers like me can walk away from our children and know that other Americans will protect them in our absence. Today we honor you, our honorees, for your work, and we know that you will continue to move this country forward. Now I have the honor of starting to give out these awards. The Social Justice Awards were originally conceived to honor members of our community and to provide us with a venue in which we may acknowledge and reflect on their accomplishments. Tonight, they're going to be awarded in the following categories: the Holly Fair Teas Award, the Martin Luther King Jr. Social Justice Awards. They are for student organization, for emerging leadership, ongoing commitment, lifetime achievement, and the Dartmouth Center for Service Lexter B. Granger Class of 18 Award for lifetime achievement. Each awardee will receive a clock inscribed with their name and an engraving of Dartmouth Hall. The gift of the clock was inspired by a quote by Martin Luther King: "We must use time creatively in the knowledge that the time is always ripe to do right." The presentations of the awards will be followed by a panel discussion that I will lead with the honorees, and we'll talk about their lives and their careers. Now, 2 of our award winners were unable to be with us, but their colleagues and friends are here to accept the award and read a statement from them. So we will start, we'll take off, and our first award is going to Nancy Bloomfield, and it is the Ongoing Commitment Award. Since May of 2015, Nancy Bloomfield has served as Executive Director of the Family Place, one of 15 state-designated parent-child centers located in Norwich, Vermont. The organization helps young children get off to a healthy start and promotes long-term family well-being through a variety of on-site and home-based programs. And the programs and supports. Since graduating from Dartmouth in 1999, Nancy has remained in the Upper Valley here, pursuing a professional life that has connected her with her community in a meaningful way. It was at the Tucker Foundation at Dartmouth that Nancy first connected with the Upper Valley community. During her freshman year, she spent numerous weekends off campus climbing ladders and making repairs to mobile homes with other volunteers through Operation Installation, a student group that was based, they was based here in the Upper Valley, and they focused on weatherizing homes. Ultimately, through Operation Installation, Nancy's collaboration with a volunteer carpenter, Simon Dennis, it sparked the founding of a new Upper Valley organization, Cover Home Repair. After 6 years with Cover, relationships that Nancy had formed with children and teens led her to a role in the development of Listens Team Life Skills Center. It's called The Junction. Years later, Nancy also worked with families involved with Vermont's child protection system through her work as a family engagement specialist with Easter Seals, Vermont. Nancy is off on a once-of-a-lifetime trip to Alaska. She did not invite me. I will forgive her for that. Accepting her award is Tracy Duskin Eichler. Will you please come forward?
So I'll read Nancy's remarks that she sent. As Tracy reads these remarks, I am in Juneau, Alaska, celebrating my birthday, probably in the rain, with my husband, brother-in-law, and nephews. Today is actually her birthday, her parents tell me. While I treasure every opportunity to reconnect with far-flung family members and the chance to travel with my husband, I am sorry to miss your celebration and the panel conversation today. Thank you for the honor of this award and for allowing me to say a few words from a distance. I imagine that each person being honored today shares my feeling of gratitude for the life circumstances that have made it possible to pursue meaningful work connected to some of our deepest wishes for the world that we join for such a short time. I take my circumstances for granted more days than I would like to admit. Thank you for this opportunity to remember how lucky I have been. I would like to acknowledge my parents, Roger and Susan. If all went as planned, they are celebrating with you today, and they are, and I would like to acknowledge Nancy's parents. Maybe you could stand for us. They worked hard to make it possible for my sister and me to be educated at excellent schools, graduating without the mountain of debt that can limit a person's choices. I have been able to follow a path in which inspiration could play a central role, and for that I am very grateful. Most importantly, though, I want to thank my parents for a lifetime of always knowing how much they care. In my work over the past decade or so with children and teens, with youth in state's custody, with young families challenged to remain intact, I have been reminded many times over how important it is for each of us to feel known and loved and to have a sense of belonging and connection with others. Sadly, my work has introduced me far too many children who experience a painful struggle when it comes to human connection. Life experiences have taught them that there can be serious trade-offs to trusting others or trusting their own inclinations to feel connected. My passion for the work I am engaged in has been sustained by witnessing the small but significant shifts that can happen for a child in this circumstance when their courage is rewarded through relationships and new experiences worthy of their trust. For this reason, I would like to share the honor of this award with everyone I have been privileged to work with in the Upper Valley since my graduation from Dartmouth, especially my friend Amelia, who is doing frontline work in 3 local schools with kids who struggle in the ways I have described, and everyone involved in the Family Place, where the focus is on helping young families get a healthy start. And I would just like to say that the Upper Valley is lucky to have someone like Nancy Bloomfield in its midst. So thank you.
And to her parents, you are there. Tell her I forgive her for not inviting me to go to. Now we shall move to the Martin Luther King Jr. Social Justice Award for Lifetime Achievement. In recognition of his legacy of service, I would love to give it to him in person, but he's not here. A colleague is here, to Ashley Bryan. And as I told you earlier, tell him I am coming to find him. Ashley was born in 1923. He was raised in Bronx, New York. At 17, he entered the tuition-free Cooper Union School of Art and Engineering, having been denied entry elsewhere because of his race. Drafted out of art school into the segregated U.S. Army at age 19, Ashley preserved his humanity throughout World War II by drawing, stowing supplies in his gas mask when necessary. After the war, Ashley completed his Cooper Union degree, studied philosophy and literature at Columbia University on the GI Bill, and then went to Europe on a Fulbright scholarship, seeking to understand why humans choose war. In 1950, renowned cellist Pablo Casals agreed to break the vow of silence he had taken after Franco came to power in his native Spain. Ashley was permitted to draw Casals and his fellow musicians during rehearsals in France, where Casals was in exile. Through the power of Casals' music sessions, something broke free for Ashley. He said, "I found the rhythm in my hand." Ashley returned to the United States, teaching at several schools and universities, retiring in the 1980s to Maine's Cranberry Isles as Professor Emeritus of Dartmouth College. Meanwhile, Ashley published books, more than 50 to date, and thanks to a wonderful local couple, I have some of those books. Among Ashley's awards are the Coretta Scott King Virginia Hamilton Lifetime Achievement Award, Laura Ingalls Wilder Medal, and the New York Public Library's Literary Lions Award. Throughout the United States and Africa, libraries, children's rooms, and literary festivals are named for him. As much as Ashley is humbled by these honors, it is the joy of creation, the excitement he sees in children's eyes, that delight him the most. He was unable to join us tonight. As I said, he lives on an island off of Maine, and if you know how hard it is to get here from New York, imagine getting here from an island off the coast of Maine. But we do have Esme Thompson, his colleague, who will speak for him. Please.
I feel like I should apologize. You're really missing out to not have Ashley here, but I have his words to read to you. He was my colleague and my mentor when I came to Dartmouth in 1979 to the Visual Studies Department, which is now Studio Art. And I just, I just feel honored to be able to read these words to you. So these are Ashley's words. Bright greetings to my friends, old and new, attending this Dartmouth Social Justice Awards program. Without my knowledge, my friend Sarah Hunter submitted her proposal that my life and work be considered for this award. I'm deeply touched that the Social Justice Review Committee selected me for this special honor. And I'm happy to have my friend and former colleague in the Dartmouth Visual Studies Department, Professor Esme Thompson, read my words of acceptance. My parents emigrated to the United States from Antigua in the British West Indies soon after the First World War. They settled in the Bronx, New York. I was the second of their 6 children. As a child, I would not have known what the term social justice meant. However, in later years, I realized that my parents raised us with the spirit of how those words apply to one's daily life. We grew up in a 4-story tenement building. We knew the tenants of all the apartments. We shared daily acts of thoughtfulness, courtesy, and kindness. It was the Depression years. We helped meet the needs of others. As children, we created art projects from cast-off materials. The library was our second home. The family-like community we lived in protected us. These were the riches at the heart of social justice. So social justice has inspired and informed my interests and pursuits through life. Its call is inescapable. I brought this spirit to my students at Dartmouth. We shared common and unique discoveries as we worked together. In the process, we created a warm, family-like community in our class. Every morning, I awake with a childlike spirit of the adventure, discovery, and invention that the day holds in store for me. This is my way of making the dream of social responsibility an ongoing reality. I close with this poem that I hope may speak to all of us. I Dream a World by the Black American poet Langston Hughes. I dream a world where man, no other man will scorn, where love will bless the earth, and peace its paths adorn. I dream a world where all will know sweet freedom's way, where greed no longer saps the souls, nor avarice blights our day. I dream a world I dream where black or white, whatever race you be, will share the bounties of the earth, and every man is free, where wretchedness will hang its head and joy, like a pearl, attends the needs of all mankind. Of such I dream, my world.
And if you get a chance to see any of his books, please take that opportunity. Having them in my life have been.
I wasn't sure I could travel from the island. I'm Ashley's neighbor, and I'm the one that reads all the emails that many of you send. He did ask if everyone could stand, if you know him personally. He wanted a feel of that. Would you mind doing that? Okay. Thank you. Hi, Jay. And we have to take a boat, and then he's 92 and a half, and it's a big deal. But you're all invited, and even if you didn't stand, you're invited to come visit. You come to Little Cranberry Island, and you walk on the island, and you say, "Where's Ashley's house?" or "Where's Susie?" And we'll get you there. It's only a mile long.
And I am going to find you.
And there's a ferry house down on the road, I'll show it to you.
Great. The Martin Luther King Jr. Social Justice Award for Student Organization honors a student group for its commitment to promoting social justice in our community and beyond. The recipient of this year's award is Urban Health Scholars of the Geisel School of Medicine. Urban Health Scholars is a Geisel student group whose mission is to train medical students interested in serving medically underserved populations in urban settings. Throughout, and I will say from this point forward, UHS to shorten it a bit, members' education, medical students are encouraged to become competent practitioners, researchers, and public advocates for underserved urban populations. To accomplish this goal, UHS inspires a graduate medical student who has scholars in 4 main areas. Their cultural versatility, service and outreach, continued education, and clinical medicine. Scholars are encouraged to pursue a meaningful understanding of cultural, linguistic, and socioeconomic factors affecting underserved patient access to health care and health care outcomes in urban areas. Scholars are also strongly encouraged to lead a service project in an urban area throughout their medical education. Urban health scholars are encouraged to continue their lifelong education both through formal and informal studies in their pursuit to serve urban populations. And lastly, scholars are provided with clinical opportunities in their urban areas. First, could we ask all of the members of Urban Health Scholars to just stand up so we can, and their advisor, Sean O'Leary, stand up so that we can recognize you. And if you could have a seat, if I could ask Chinwe El-Chazu to come and take a seat at the panel table. You will be joined by others, so no need to worry. I'm not going to leave you there long by yourself. Now I get to introduce the winner of the Holly Fea Satea Award. Now people say, is there a Holly Fea Satea if you haven't worked here? She really does exist. I didn't make her up. And she's actually sitting here. Holly, would you just stand? This year's award winner of the Holly Fea Satea Award is Casey Montas. Casey, somehow I knew he would have his fan club. Casey was born in the Dominican Republic and moved to Queens, New York at age 16. He attended Queens College of the City University of New York, where he earned a BA in Spanish and secondary education, and then obtained a MA in Spanish literature from the University of Cincinnati. He has taught at the University of Cincinnati, at Monterrey Institute of Technology and Higher Education in Mexico, and at New York University. At Dartmouth, he is the Associate Director for the Department of Safety and Security. In 2008, he received the Dean of the College's Diversity Recognition Award. 2013, he received the Dean of the College's Award of Excellence. Casey is also a poet and a fiction writer and has published 3 books of poetry, 1 book of short stories, and 1 book of essays. His work appears in various anthologies and literary magazines, and he is the winner of a number of literary prizes in the U.S. and abroad. He's an underachiever. Casey has served as a member of the Advisory Committee on Investor Responsibilities, as a faculty fellow and advisor for the Tucker Foundation's Alternative Spring Break Trip to the Dominican Republic, as the advisor to the student organization Quisqueyanas, close, yeah, at Dartmouth, and as an Argentine tango instructor for the Dartmouth Argentine Tango Society. Casey is also a founding member of the Latino-Latina Advisory Council. Casey, could you join us at the panel table? I am now pleased to present the Emerging Leadership Award, and that award goes to Dr. David Gordon. David received his bachelor's degree in geography from Dartmouth College with a concentration in international development. He holds a master's degree in public health from Boston University with a concentration in international health and special interest in the accountability infrastructure of non-government organizations. He received a medical degree from the University of Vermont, where he was elected into the Alpha Omega Alpha and Gold Humanism in Medicine Society. He completed his residency training in pediatrics at the University of California, San Francisco, where he won multiple awards for excellence in teaching and clinical care. He has almost 4 years of medical and public health experience in the global South, including projects in Ecuador, Uganda, and Kenya. He served 2 years as senior consultant and lecturer at the University of Gondor Hospital, Ethiopia, during which he co-founded a pediatrics residency program. He has coordinated quality improvement initiatives that have improved survival, accelerated neurocognitive development, and reduced length of stay among children in resource-limited hospitals. David currently practices pediatrics as a clinical instructor at San Francisco General Hospital and is the founder and director for CLIP, the Collaboration for Locally Driven Improvement in Pediatrics. David, you can now join us at the table. Chinwe, did I live up to my promise? Oh. I am pleased now to present the Dartmouth Center for Service Lester B. Granger Class of 18 Award, and that award is going to Christopher Keating. In his efforts, next year I'm bringing my fan club. In his efforts leading New Hampshire's Judicial Council, Chris has worked to sustain and improve indigent defense and has been a strong advocate on behalf of equal justice. In addition to his efforts in support of equal justice in criminal cases, Chris has worked to increase the role of court-appointed special advocates to provide critical services to children in protection from abuse cases. Prior to leading the Judicial Council, Chris served for 11 years as the executive director of the New Hampshire Public Defender Program, which widely recognized as one of the nation's leading defender offices. Chris began his legal career with the Public Defender in 1992, and in 1995 he opened the first dedicated Public Defender office to serve New Hampshire's North Country. For over a decade, Chris provided representation to thousands of clients in the state's most rural regions and tried dozens of felony cases ranging from heroin possession to first-degree murder. A native of New Hampshire, Chris is the recipient of the New Hampshire Bar Association's Dufresne Award, given annually to recognize outstanding professionalism in the practice of law as part of a common calling to promote justice and public good. He was named the Champion of Justice by the New Hampshire Association of Criminal Defense Attorneys for his demonstrated achievement in the practice of criminal defense and outstanding service to the organization and to his community. Chris was recently appointed by the Chief Justice of the New Hampshire Supreme Court to lead the judicial branch's administrative office of courts. Chris, please join your esteemed colleagues. Time, is my mic on? Yes. I get to be Oprah. Oprah who brings her own chair. Thank you. So we get to have a conversation with all of these people. So what we have done, we will have each panelist in 5 minutes. We're going to test your abilities as a lawyer. Because in 5 minutes, you're going to answer one question. And we're going to start, actually, with Chinwe. So you get to set the bar. All right. And here are the 3 questions. Did your passion for social justice have roots in your college experience? If you're here at Dartmouth, we're here at Dartmouth, your Dartmouth experience, that's the first one. Second, how do you sustain the passion you bring to your work? Third, what's one lesson have you learned about social change that you would like to share?
Okay, all 3. 5
All
minutes.
3, 5 minutes.
Okay, well, I just want to start off by saying that I don't just represent myself, I'm representing the Urban Health Scholars. And so we've actually talked about some of these things before, and so I'm going to try and tie in a lot of our thoughts. So the first question was, did my roots start in college or here at Dartmouth? The answer to that is no. My roots, as well as most of the other scholars, started prior to coming to Dartmouth. I personally grew up in Chicago, on the south side of Chicago, and so I saw a lot of disparities and a lot of injustice firsthand. Some of the other scholars have had family members that have had to live in conditions that they did not feel were right and that they felt they wanted to do something about. And some of the other scholars have actually been teachers and have seen students suffering and seen their academic work not get to a place where it could potentially be had they had proper health care and had they had other things that they needed. And so I think a lot of our passion for social justice was prior to Dartmouth, but it's coming here has enhanced that and given us opportunities to continue to explore that and what we can do about that. The next question was
Your passion. How do you keep your passion going?
How do I keep my passion? So Aaron Briggs, one of the other scholars, said it best. So I'm going to try and quote him. It's probably not going to be 100%, but he said these injustices still exist. So the passion can't go away if that need is still there, and that's what's driving us, and that's what we want to change. And so I completely agree with him 100%, and I think we all feel very similarly to that. They're all nodding their heads. That's why we joined this organization, because it gives us the experiences and the tools. It helps us feel that passion. And the last question. One lesson you learned about social change that you want to share with us. I would say that one lesson that I've learned about social change that I want to, sorry, I just repeated the whole question. I would say that change can be done no matter where you are in life, no matter what stage you're at. And I, as a younger person, found that to be a very valuable lesson I learned in graduate school. When I was getting my MPH, we had to do a program in the community where we just tried to bring about some type of change or tried to implement something and bring it into fruition. And one of the big issues at my institution was unwanted pregnancies and STI contraction, and dropout rates were really high there for undergraduate students. And so we had an initiative to go out and just make the resources known and have students feel comfortable to come and get resources they need and seek care and seek mentorship. And I was able to provide some of those things as a graduate student. And I think a lot of times we think that as younger people, sometimes we think that, oh, when I get to a certain place, I'll do this, or, oh, when I graduate from this program, I'll do that. And I think we forget that a lot of changes can be done now where we are. Even just mentoring people that are coming after me in medicine, people that are passionate about working with underserved populations as well, and people that just have similar interests. The little ripples, sometimes we feel like they're maybe not as significant as we as we want them to be, but I think they are. And especially with all of us passionate about these things and doing things together and just continuing that movement, I think that we make a lot of change. And so I would just say that probably applies to everyone, no matter where you are in life, change can be made. And so that's something that I learned, and I'm glad I learned that in grad school, and I would like to continue to keep that mentality and encourage others to have that mentality as well.
Thank you. Hey, Casey, you want to pick up from there?
Well, in the interest of time, in my own personal interest and in the interest of you, I sort of wrote down the questions and the answers.
Remember, he's a writer.
Yeah, that's where the interest of time comes in. So I'm just going to read the questions and the answers to you. Did your passion for social justice have roots in your Dartmouth or college experience? I will say that I do not know if social justice is a passion of mine as tango or woodworking is a passion of mine. I do not think I can even say that social justice is something that I am passionate about. Rather, the practice of social justice is something that is part of me, something with which I grew up. If I were to name its roots, I will have to go back in time to places which are fuzzy in my memory. Given his opposition to the regime and his political activities before I was 5 years old, my dad disappeared. We did not know where he was. We feared the worst. But a month or so later, he came back. He looked skinnier and malnourished, and he stunk. He had been kept in a solitary confinement for over a month. Years later, I recall we had to run away from our house. We got wind that there were plans to burn our house down. So my mom, my baby brother, and I went to stay with my grandparents, and my dad went into hiding. I must have been 8 or 9 when I had to explain to my brother that we did not have any presents for Three Kings Day. That's when we get toys for Christmas. Because the kings did not exist and Dad had no money. The difficult part of that was that it had nothing to do with kings or Dad or who paid for the presents. It had to do with the fact that we were kids and kids got toys for Three Kings Day. I was about 10 years old and my father's tailor shop had to close down. Clients were afraid of repression by association. And after 3 months or so of having to face our school teacher in the little private school that we attended, not having the money due of 10 pesos, I showed up with my brother at the principal's office of our town's public school to matriculate us. I remember the principal asking, "Where are your parents?" To which I reply, "Isn't the students what you need?" Now, let me take you all on a leap of faith with me. In 1986, I was 16 and my brother was 11, and we left our little hometown, which had one telephone at the gas station, and left our little home in which we had no TV, no stove, no refrigerator. And without knowing English, we landed in New York City. The second question, how do you sustain the passion that you bring to your work? What I bring to my life, my work, my friends, those around me is simply my history. This history of where I am and where I am and where I come from. What I have learned and continue to learn and what I didn't know. What I didn't have and what I have. It all allows me to look at everything with at least a dual perspective. What drives me, if you will, is that while the human race has come so far, we have such long ways to go, and there is injustice everywhere we look. What one lesson have you learned about social change that you would like to share? The one lesson I have learned is that change is not easy. It takes time, but it is doable. It is doable because we are able to modify our behavior based on reason and our thinking. when applied using multiple perspectives, we can and will overcome fear. We fear the unknown, and at times that fear takes hold of our entire focus and prevents us from seeing clearly, from seeing anything else. When we do not see anything else because our focus is on the unknown, we fail to see the known, and the known is so much bigger. What is the unknown? It is that thing of you that is different from me. It is that thing of me that is different from you. It is therefore unknown. I do not know what it is to be a woman, what it is to be blind, what it is to be Muslim, what it is to speak without an accent, what it is to be white. Mm-hmm. But it gets better with us. And by us, I mean you, I, everyone. I am perfect the way I am, and my way is the best way. And it should be the way of you and the way of everyone else. So that is to say, everyone else should do as I do. And when we get there is when women are not allowed to attend schools. Dartmouth has known a thing or two about that. Immigrants should be sent back. Refugees should not be allowed. White males are the only CEOs, millionaires, presidents, idiots, may I say, to one millionaire I know of, administrators, or faculty members. So how do we rid ourselves of the fear? And I think we all know this. It is by acquiring knowledge. And I like to suggest that we acquire it by learning about ourselves and gaining and applying multiple perspectives. For example, you think of yourself and you know yourself to be perfect, as I noted. Nothing wrong with me, right? But when you look at yourself in the mirror, you might see or learn something new. If you compare and contrast yourself to another individual, you might start to notice and learn quite a bit. And ultimately, if you are able to see yourself from the position, through the eyes, and from the perspective of others, you would have learned and understood so much about how similar we are. And while you might never get to really know what it is to be blind, you will not fear blindness. And hopefully, we will all come to realize, to quote William Chase's book, The Language of Action, you will come to realize that other people, other races, other voices, other habits of mind have as much integrity of being, as much claim to the world as you do. And I urge you, amid all the differences present to the eye and the mind, to reach out and create a bond that will protect us all, as we are meant to be here on this earth together.
I think you just made Holly Fea Satea very proud. David?
Yeah, my colleague to my right just said, "Good luck, man." Thanks. Well, yeah, first I want to extend a warm thank you. It's a huge honor being back here and getting any recognition from this institution that I've come to admire so much. It's also a pleasure walking through these halls again. In answering your first question, did my interest in this work, the social justice, is it rooted at Dartmouth College? I would echo what these guys have said too. I think there was a hollow shell of this inspiration earlier on in my life as well, seeing injustices not so much here in the United States. I grew up in suburban California, and certainly there are problems there, but I was shielded from a lot of it in some important ways. But I had an opportunity to travel abroad to Ecuador when I was in high school, and it really shook the foundation of what I took for granted in a very meaningful and powerful way. But if I had this spark when I arrived at Dartmouth, this college just dumped kindling on it. I was outfitted with so many amazing resources. I had amazing mentorship. I was a Tucker Fellow. Thank you to the folks here representing Tucker as well. And I really appreciate that. But I think what Dartmouth did most for me was connect me with a community of extremely impressive human beings. When I look back at all of my friends, almost all of my friends that I made really strong relationships here, it turns out almost all of them have ended up becoming teachers in a remote area, physicians that either travel abroad or work in remote areas of the United States. A United Nations development worker. There's a guy who makes documentary films about environmental conservation. These were the people that I found myself with before we were differentiated and specialized. Seeing them blossom has been extremely helpful. It's taught me a lot about the kind of person I want to be with, and frankly, the kind of person I want to be. In answering the second question, how do I sustain my passion? To give you some context, I do a lot of work overseas. Our program, CLIP, is responsible for helping strengthen healthcare systems to improve the medical management of children that are having difficulty accessing strong medical care. So a lot of my suggestion to folks that are interested in this has to do with working with people in a very different place and possibly a very different mindset. And my experience has been this work is hard, and as my colleagues were saying here, change takes time. Figuring out first what is important to you as a human being, and then asking stakeholders what is important to them, and then trying to find where those two circles overlap. That's the win-win situation. That's the sweet spot. If you find that and grow it and work with people to make it bigger, passion becomes a part of the infrastructure of everything that you do. And seeing other people get excited will bring more excitement into the work. That's almost definitely been the case with every successful project that I've had. When I've tried working outside that sweet spot, I find that those projects don't last particularly long, even if there was an initial spark or fire. In addressing your third question, what lessons have I learned? One lesson, this was a little easier for me to answer because I have such a tangible anecdote and response to it. I think with the friends that I've worked with at Dartmouth and folks I've worked with overseas, there's no question that passion and compassion are the cornerstone of everything that they do. But I would argue that there's a third leg to this stool, and from my experience, it's data. Let me give you a very clear example of what I mean by this. When I graduated my residency training program, I was invited to join this faculty in a hospital I'd never heard of in northern Ethiopia. At the time, I was very excited about administering clinical care in a place that clearly needed a lot of support and assistance. I was interested in training physicians so that they could continue to carry forward the medical tradition and continue becoming excellent physicians themselves. But as I sat in the morning conferences every morning and heard interns describe what happened overnight, it was 4 young children dead, 5 young children dead. It was extraordinary how preventable a lot of these problems were. And I was approached by the director of this program, and he said, Dave, we've never done an audit. We never asked who's coming to the hospital and what sort of things might be causing them to die. So he helped me build a research project to collect data from registration books, death certificates, patient charts, anywhere we could get our hands on high-quality data. And we demonstrated for the faculty how mortality had changed over time. So with a very simple chart, just plotting out monthly how many patients were dying. We presented this chart to the faculty and asked them, from a systems level, what is causing this graph to look the way it does? This was the first time any of them had seen data like this. And immediately they started generating problems and solutions. They said, we don't have any standard of care between our senior attendings, so we standardized care. We don't have clinical management guidelines to help interns hold themselves accountable to standard of care, so we gave them institution-specific clinical guidelines. They said, our interns don't have any training in emergency pediatrics, so we gave them a simulation-based training program so that they didn't have to learn on extremely sick children. Almost overnight, we decreased the mortality at that hospital by 42%. And that has been sustained for the last 3 years of practice at that hospital. That's the power of what data-based decision-making can do. And I think all the passion and compassion needs to be present, and that drives us forward. But we need to know where we are so that we don't become part of the problem, and so that we can direct our resources in the most effective way and demonstrate that we're doing what we claim to do. That would be the lesson I learned the strongest over the course of my work.
That's great. Thanks, everybody.
You can take your water with you. I'm sorry, Yolande. But
I don't even know what the first
where's his
question
family?
is
He's gonna rock. He's gonna rock, isn't he?
So did Dartmouth help this? So I attended an Episcopal school in high school, and they just hammered this message about service and using the privileges that you had had of a good, strong education to serve your community. And I was 14, and it didn't catch. And I came to Dartmouth, and what inspired me was the students that surrounded me. If you'll recall, back in 1985, I think, students built shanties on the green. And I think the college was a little taken aback. By these shanties on the green. And the point they were trying to make was this college should divest itself of corporations that have strong holdings in apartheid South Africa. I've only recently learned how to pronunciate apartheid, and so that was an education to me about dedication and sacrifice to a cause. It also was a little bit of a demonstration of how an institution needed to be brought along about how to respond to students who were motivated to make change. And through the college's clumsy response to it, I saw real heroism from I can't even call them my peers, because I was headed to class and they were sleeping overnight in these shanties in the cold, trying to make a point, trying to move this institution into a more enlightened direction to solve an important problem. And it was really the first time I saw true dedication from people my age. I want to highlight one of them, Kim Porteous. She was a Nordic skier on the ski team. She went on to take that advocacy and enthusiasm and dedication to this important social justice issue and move to South Africa and work with Nelson Mandela to be a key lieutenant in the effort to further his efforts to end apartheid. And she, from what I understand, still there, still fighting for social justice. So it was the inspiration of fellow students that I took away from my Dartmouth experience. A little bit of the Dartmouth Outing Club, because I think the principle of the Outing Club is about service, and it's about supporting fellow students in pursuing this passion in the out of doors and protecting one another in those endeavors. And then I think finally my involvement in Cass and Gauntlet, which is in essence a service organization that encourages the service efforts of the students. Second question.
Someone was going to tell you. How do you sustain your passion?
Yeah, how do I sustain my passion? Winston Churchill was before he was Chancellor of the Exchequer, he actually headed the Bureau of Prisons. He had a really obscure job before he really began his career in earnest. But he was a smart guy, and he thought a lot about corrections and the criminal justice system in the United Kingdom. And he once wrote something that I've just cherished, and I'll mangle the quote. And it's not really one quote because it's been repeated so many times, it's not clear what he said. But the gist of what he said was, a calm and dispassionate recognition of the rights of the accused and of the criminal defendant are the mark and measure of the stored up strength of a community, and are the sign and living measure of the vitality and justice of that community. And that's informed my work as a public defender for more than 20 years, because I feel like this very disenfranchised, often despised segment of our population is overlooked. And I think sometimes we say to ourselves platitudes about having a just society, about having one of the finest criminal justice systems in the world. I would argue that we don't. And we have a long way to go to ensuring that we demonstrate the strength of our community by being willing to accord justice to people, and that justice is a calm, dispassionate recognition of the rights of the accused. Even if those accused people are some of the most, for the time being, despised people of our community. And so then the last, in response to the last question, how do I see social change happen? I think it's in ruining dinner parties with sanctimony and I think it's mixing sanctimony or avoiding sanctimony, but at dinner parties, trying to change people's minds one thing at a time. You change attitudes one person at a time, and you can use data and you can use the justice of what you're trying to get accomplished through persuasion. But I guess my point is, it has to happen on the ground on a daily basis, one-on-one. And if you can spread the message and move other people to think in that direction, then you can fix some of the ugly things about the way we do things. I'll go on a little bit, but then I'll stop. We've sort of pushed the criminal justice system to just this small little corner of our society, and yet we all need to take ownership of the criminal justice system. Because people emerge from the criminal justice system, and they get a message about their self-worth from the criminal justice system. And if we want to really help people and demonstrate that we have a fair and just society, we have to have a fair and just criminal justice system. And so we need to stop having a death penalty in the United States, because we have to realize that if we indeed distrust government to always do the right thing, we ought not to have a system that kills people that is a government-run operation. And apart from it being morally unjust and expensive, it is an unreliable, unjust process, and we need to convince people about that. We have a system where we impose financial burdens on people that are so great that we create barriers to reentry, and we make it difficult for people who find themselves in the criminal justice system, often in the criminal justice system because they were targeted because of their socioeconomic status or their race, or where they happen to live at a particular time or walk at a particular time. And we create a permanent underclass by not taking responsibility for funding the things that we need to fund in this nation, like decent access to addiction recovery programs. We need to stop fining people and adding penalty assessments to fines as a means of generating revenue that goes into the revenue that pays for the things that we as citizens ought to pay for. We ought to recognize the fact that the New Hampshire Advantage might benefit corporations and might benefit landowners and airline pilots who live in the southern tier of the state, but it actually provides huge disadvantages to poor people who are trying to get ahead. And we just keep them permanently down by having the systems that we have. And so I'm such a bore. I see social change as reminding people day in and day out about the obstacles that we create in our systems, and trying to make people understand that we should own the criminal justice system because it matters so much in the justness of the society that we have. And then I want to say thanks to my friends who came and the people who nominated me and my family who showed up. Thanks, Evie. And so thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. get questions. They do not get to escape for another 10 minutes or so. We have them for questions. You get to ask questions of the panelists. We don't get many questions, so make your questions short, make it a question, not a statement. And then, since we don't have mics, if you speak your question, if you don't speak it loudly, I have a mic and I can repeat it. But we do have a mic. Okay, so I'm wrong. So, first question. So much richness up here. Where do you start? If you raise your hand, I will try to find it. I have my contacts in. I can see. We have, the mic is coming so that everyone can hear you.
I had two questions. One, if you could talk a little bit more in practice about the urban scholars and what they're doing. It sounds fantastic. And I'd like to ask Christopher to come. I think we might, at least a lot of us, agree that there's a lot of abysmal laws coming out of the New Hampshire legislature. And I keep wondering why when there's so much backwardness, this legislators continue to be elected, and if he has any hope of a change in that regard.
That's your wish.
Chinwe?
Should I go first? Okay. Well, the Urban Health Scholars is a group that was started in 2007, I believe. Thank you. It was started by a group of medical students that came here to Dartmouth, but still they had a burning passion for practicing in an urban area. And so although we love this environment, not too urban here. So those of us that come here that are very passionate about not only working in an urban area, but also working with the underserved, we apply to enter Urban Health Scholars. And so you apply, you go through an interview process, and then if selected, which thankfully we have been, we get funding to travel. So we have 3 annual trips. In fall, we go to Boston. In winter, we go to New York. And then in spring, the first-year medical students go to New Orleans. And so we have those immersion trips. We also have article discussions that just talk about recent issues in urban areas. We recently, Andrea, one of our most recent articles, we talked about the prison system and how that's affecting women and women that are pregnant. We also we bring speakers here to just try and bring more awareness and more diversity to Dartmouth and to Geisel in particular. We have various projects in the community. Andrea and some other scholars are working at Sununu, which is a women's prison, and they're going to help. They go and help women get their GED. There's mentorship at Manchester High. There's a new initiative that was just started this year to bring more information and more light to the LGBTQ community. What else do we do? Oh yeah, also we have an elective that was started. This is one of our faculty advisors, Joe O'Donnell, who's amazing, yeah.
If I can say something,
Yes.
We've had, at the guys at school,
We have a mic, Joe.
we've had
And
it
while
for-
Joe is getting the mic, Joe won the first Holly Fair Satir Award 3 years ago.
my friend. We had this great Rural Scholars Program, which seemed kind of neat because that's where we are, kind of in a rural area, and it was doing great things. And 2 students came to me one day and said, 99% of the students here go to cities to do their residency program. Can we have an urban scholars program? And so we got some funding and modeled it along the Rural Scholars Program, and it's been enormously successful. I can't tell you how much good it's done, both for the students who are scholars and for our whole school, and people who prepare to go to urban areas to do their residency, like David did.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yeah, so it's just a great opportunity, and with the support from Joe, and Sean had to leave earlier, but he's our other faculty advisor. They're so supportive, and it's really been a great experience. So. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so the Med Spanish was an elective that was started by some of the urban health scholars, and so basically, we get trained in, we learn this what seems like a whole new language. We learn all this medical terminology and how to interact with patients and what questions to ask, and so an elective was started to learn how to ask those questions in Spanish. And so some of the scholars actually lead that and not only teach ourselves, but also our peers in the medical school of how to gain those skills. So.
Are you ready for that question, Christopher?
A quick sad anecdote. When there are fines established by statute, and a couple of years ago, 20 years ago, New Hampshire came up with the idea of adding a penalty assessment to each criminal fine.
Mm-hmm.
And the penalty assessment would be used to fund New Hampshire police standards and training, and some of the money would go into the general fund, and so it was just sort of a revenue increasing thing, sort of wholly inconsistent with some of the purposes of punishment and deterrence, rehabilitation. Nowhere in there is it fundraising. But I watched sadly as New Hampshire legal assistance leaders went in requesting an increase in the penalty assessment and using the increased funds that would be derived from the increase in penalty assessment to fund increases for civil legal services for the poor. What a funny, weird thing to do. For a system to go after some of the poorest people in the state and provide extra financial burdens on them to fund legal representation for some of the other poorest people in the state. And that passed, and so funding for civil legal assistance increased. And then 2 years later, they cut the funding for New Hampshire legal assistance, so all we were left with was the increased penalty assessment. We just need enlightened advocacy on behalf of these issues, and it's hard to do that because it's a tough constituency to represent. Also, two quick observations about the New Hampshire legislature. It's the largest in the United States, apart from the the United States House of Representatives, and the average age is the highest average age in all of the nation for legislators. And so, as a group of people, their concerns tend to be mostly about kind of law and order and protecting the New Hampshire advantage, air quotes, of not having a broad-based tax. It's hard to really do anything or accomplish anything if the government is intentionally starved of resources as a means of avoiding having decent, honorable public programs. Representative Heffernan, did I? Okay. Yeah.
This is why I wait all year for this program. We probably have one time for one more question, and you're the lucky person.
Yeah, so my question actually centers around what challenges you face as one as social justice advocate as well as a service advocate, especially given the fact that some of the issues you're addressing often place you on the outskirt of being an outsider in whatever space you want to influence.
I'm happy to start with an answer. Having spent a fair amount of my career working in other countries, I think the trust building it always needs to be part of the process. I've seen it done extraordinarily well, and I've seen it done extraordinarily poorly. Sometimes being self-critical by nature, it's difficult to know where I place myself and how qualified I am to give you a good answer. But that process takes a lot of time. The situations that I see fall apart most quickly are those where there's an outsider, as you describe them, that drops in and drops out. They come in and they do their research project over the course of 2 weeks. They utilize local resources, in my experience, to do the research. Then they come out. The setting gets nothing back, but the person that leaves feels gratified after the experience. That seems to be the way it works. There are other experiences. Actually, I've learned a lot from watching one colleague of mine. Her name is Galani. She was trained here in the United States, but born in Ethiopia. So I think in Ethiopia, at least, she has a little more street cred than I do. But she did some of the most beautiful development work I've ever seen, and she was regarded as an outsider. But she managed to set up systems in that hospital like nothing I've ever seen. And by the time she left, people were giving her no credit for it. They said, "This is my project. Look at what I did." That's beautiful development work. Because or social justice work, I guess, to use the parlance of this forum, if you can convey that this is their project, then it goes a lot farther. In my case, my partner in crime in Ethiopia is this gentleman, Dr. Moretti Kokub. To date, I think I actually have yet to meet a more dedicated physician. This guy works probably 16, 17, 18 hours a day. He rounds 3 times a day, sometimes at 2 or 3 in the morning. He invited us to come because he knew he was out of his league, and he was motivated to form partnerships with us. The amount that I've learned from this guy is incredible. But by the time CLIPS kind of formed and he was taking ownership, he was calling this his project. And that was a feeling, that's probably the best compliment that I could have gotten from this. And I think to my knowledge, we've stayed in contact. I know there are a number of quality improvement programs going on, and that would be my best answer to the question. Try and make it belong to the folks that you're working with. Seems to work. And anybody else?
I have the honor of, first of all, thanking you again so much for your work. Thanking you for coming out and supporting us and them and encouraging us and them. But I always close with both a promise and a request, or a request and a promise. So I will do the same thing with you. In the most recent IDE book club, the book club is alive again, we learned from a poet, Rumi. He stated, and this is not in its entirety, "Come, come, whoever you are. Ours is not a caravan of despair." With your continuing support, we promise that we'll spread the hope for social justice, and we will never despair as long as you keep working. So thank you for coming out, and the reception is out in the hallway.